The flying fish sequence has got to be one of my favorite scenes in the movie. On set, you know, you think about all these high-tech things. You got a wave tank with pre-programmed waves, and you have this special stereo camera. But when it comes to flying fish interaction, it's a bunch of guys on a raft standing by with rubber fish, just chucking them at our actor.
In the fish flying scene, he also has to fight the tiger, and a couple blue men down there fighting with him.
Aang said it would be cool if, you know, I could be on the lifeboat and pretend to be a tiger. And this is amazing stuff because, you know, normally I just, you know, sit behind a desk, work with the animators, and don't get physically, you know, involved on a shoot. Being on set, you know, having being in the presence of the real tigers and providing some of the physicality for Pai, for Surge to act against, feeling those forces and then being able to communicate that back to the animators here at R&H was an incredible experience.
Once we're back in Los Angeles and we're working on these shots, it was just fun to kind of, you know, have these fish bouncing off of the tiger, and the way the tiger reacts to certain things was fun to lay out. And there's this piece of software called Massive that we use, which every fish was given a little brain to decide where he's going to fly, you know, if he's going to veer off to the left to avoid something, or if he's going to dive back in the water. And they're, you know, each fish is programmed, and then we just kind of say go. And a lot of times you get what you get. Sometimes there's weirdos that kind of just go straight up. But it produces some fun moments.
We had to simulate them at 120 frames per second because the distance that they traveled through, we wanted them to hit the boat and fall down if they hit the boat. But because they're going so fast, they would actually start at the beginning one frame here and end past the boat and end up just flying right through the boat.
Actually, you might not notice that I cropped the frames, so it's a wide screen. So I have that extra black on there so I can put fish really outside in front of the black that feels extra outside of the screen. So that was great fun.
Our Massive team says that this is probably the most difficult task that they've had on the job ever. There were a lot of them, and they had to interact with water surfaces. I mean, these guys fly on the surface of the wave, and those waves are done in a different package. All of that stuff just comes right together, and with Massive and animation and the water simulations just pulls it all together.
It's a memorable scene. People don't go to movies to see something ordinary. And the question there was just how extraordinary to make it.
Richard Parker! Come on, you have to see this! It's beautiful!
With the Storm of God, Aang wanted it to be a realistic storm, but just a little hyper-real. At this point in the movie, in his mind's eye, the storm is going over the top. This is the biggest thing Pai has ever seen, so we take waves and blow the wind just a little harder, make the clouds a little more fantastic than the real thing. Without taking you out, but just adding the art component to the technical visual effects.
The point is, Pai is experiencing this epiphany, this moment of connectedness with God as he feels it. He wants to share it with Richard Parker, and Richard Parker is just a tiger. He's terrified. He hates the storm, he hates the water, he hates everything, and he's absolutely terrified. And that's what snaps Pai out of it, is his realization that he's actually exposing Richard Parker to an experience that he can't share because they are separate. As much as he wants to share everything with Richard Parker's a tiger, and Pai is Pai, and they're separate, and that realization is what snaps him out of it.
We had some shots in the tank, again, with the tank dialed up as much as possible, and then there's quite a few scenes where there was so much movement and there was so much specific choreography that we actually went to a gimbal set. We had the boat on a gimbal with dump tanks around, so we had Surge on the boat being pelted by wind and rain and this giant dump tank that just washes him across the boat. And he did all of his own stunts, take after take. It wants to be a storm that looks amazingly real and scary, but also has to have that extra element.
I would like to see them as artists create an impression of internal turmoil. So that's what the ocean's for me. Not really about the impressive storm that scare you or impress you, but to visualizing a person's internal turmoil, and that's has a universal so feel to the viewer.
Why are you scaring him?
And I hope that's moving because it's also about he lost his family and he's spent a long time on the sea. And also he sees the inner beast of a tiger suffering, scared, and not be able to see the light of God.
And here's a scene after the storm sequence where our tiger's hanging on. We had to get all the little details, like the water lapping up around his face. We put little water simulations that have the water come up and over his legs, and his paw in the water actually gets pushed around by the water in the tank. We had stereo cameras moving around with a lot of different things to coordinate. There were some moments where we all looked at each other and kind of crossed our fingers and said, let's hope this works. The island sequence, I mean, meerkats. Who doesn't love meerkats? The meerkats, just like the flying fish, were programmed with this thing called Massive, where each meerkat is given a little brain, and they know what their family is, and they kind of hang out with their families, and if someone gets up and looks around, everyone follows suit. We had the automatic ones, and then we had the hand-animated characters, and Eric and his team just had so much fun with that.
I think in some of the scenes there were 60 to 70,000 meerkats. That's a bear on any system. You know, they're jittery, they follow each other in a crowded manner. One pops their head up and 10,000 more pop their head up. And they're really cute little characters. As Pi goes through, they look and they all turn their heads and they look at this new thing on their island that they've been on supposedly forever. It's a lot of fun getting these little guys to do what you want them to do.
I saw Serge a couple weeks ago after the New York Film Festival. That was the first time he'd seen the movie, and he was so excited. And the thing he was most excited about was meerkats. He says, I'm sitting there in the tree, and I'm just waving around at air, and now there's meerkats all over me. It was really cool.
But one thing Bill always said was, we'll tell you how it's done when we're done. So we don't know the exact steps it will take, but each new challenge comes up and you sort of hit it head on, solve that, fix that problem, and then move on to the next challenge. And just seeing the whole thing come together when each department has done an amazing job. You yourself, who've worked on it for a year, will look at it and say, is that really CG? You can't believe what you're seeing on the screen, and it's a really good feeling.
In visual effects, we tend to look at one shot here, one shot there, and trying to make it as perfect as possible, but it's important to have the big picture. So it was a great collaboration in that sense, where, you know, Bill would help us to build up the shots to a level where Aang would feel first comfortable, you know, watching, and that would actually fit right in the film. We basically sat down, all of us, for those 2 years, pretty much every day, looking at every single shot and, you know, discussing them through and just slowly moving them forward until the final result.
The real joy in this is for people to walk out of that movie and not see our effects at all. And that's really what we strive for.
Aang was incredible to work with. Serge was great to work with. One of the triumphs, I think, for the visual effects is that this was a very difficult movie. It was very technically challenging, but this was really one of the times that we delivered art through visual effects.
We struggled a lot, and we want to do something quite special. Hopefully never been done before, we think. I think we have very high standard to meet. It's the next level of animation. I think we'll meet that standard. I hope it's a beautiful movie that's inspiring and entertaining for the audience around the world.